Hi, everybody. Leo Babauta here from Zen Habits. Great to be here with you. Today, I'm going to be talking about a deeper topic, but this is about decluttering our minds. So, if you're someone who maybe has a lot of thoughts going through your head, it feels like maybe it's really tough to kind of deal with all of the mental chatter. Maybe it just kind of feels a little bit overwhelming and you'd like to be able to have a little bit more calm and focus throughout your day. We're going to talk about decluttering your mind using the single insight rule. So let's dive in. So, decluttering our mind, it's not like physical clutter where you can go around and be like, okay, I'm going to take this and give it away to, a charity, and I'm going to take this, give it away to my best friend, and take this and throw it out to the dump or recycle it. We can't do the same thing with our thoughts because our thoughts are not little items that we can look at, decide what we want to do with it, and get rid of it. So decluttering our mind is very different kind of activity than decluttering our physical space. So how do we declutter our mind? Well, the thing that we need to do is to realize where are the thoughts coming from? Why are we thinking so much? So we're going to get into that using the single insight rule. But before we do that, let's actually talk about the problem that comes with a cluttered mind. And when I say a cluttered mind, it's not with judgment, like that you're bad for having a lot of thoughts or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you're scattered and you can't think. It's just kind of the state of our minds sometimes. Most of us actually have a cluttered mind at some point or another, but we can actually work with this to calm the mind down, to have a little bit of mental spaciousness and be able to focus or relax without thinking so much and being too scattered. But yeah, I think a lot of us wake up and all of a sudden there's a bunch of thoughts and we kind of populate this kind of mental list of everything that we need to do. I make it look like it's like this orderly list, but it's actually more like a scatter plot with things all over the place, right? And so, yeah, it can feel really overwhelming. We feel scattered. It's like, what do I focus on right now? What should I do today? I'm kind of jumping from one thing to the next, and our my thoughts can spin around about a lot of different things. So that's kind of the problem, that kind of the state that we are in when we have a cluttered mind. And everybody has a cluttered mind from time to time, especially when there's a lot going on, or you're feeling a lot of, there's a lot happening in your life that makes you feel really unsettled. Our minds tend to go into overdrive. So let's look at why that is. And then how do we actually work with that using the single insight rule? So, why is it that our minds go into overdrive? It's because our minds are feeling some kind of uncertainty, and that uncertainty doesn't feel safe. And so the fear comes up. It's like, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to end up. And so that's scary because I don't know if I'm going to be okay. And so, therefore, I need to fix this. I need to fix the uncertainty by coming up with some kind of certainty and control, solid ground under our feet. And solid ground under our feet feels good and safe, right? But we don't like the feeling of no solid ground under our feet, which is called groundlessness. So when we're feeling groundlessness, I don't have solid ground under my feet. Things feel really unstable, uncertain, and that's very scary, right? So you might think about your own life. Are you feeling groundlessness right now? We feel groundlessness when we're going through a major life transition from one career to the next, or from a career to retirement, or going back into the workforce after, being a house parent for a while, um, or homekeeper, or whatever we want to call it. I don't know what the correct terms are these days. But I'm going into college from whatever I was doing before, or becoming an adult, or transitioning into menopause, or changing my identity in some way. Maybe I'm like no longer this professor, and now I'm like a construction worker, and that's changing my identity, right? Maybe we're going through groundlessness because there's a lot going on in our life. We're going through a crisis, right? Health crisis, family crisis, financial crisis, a world crisis, a world with many crises. And so that can give us groundlessness. Yeah, and like what's going on in the external world, like, oh my God, there's so much going on. It feels so like intense. So that can give us a sense of groundlessness. Not being sure if we're on the right path can give us some groundlessness. So as you can see, a lot of things can bring up this feeling of groundlessness. Someone criticizing me, or putting myself out there in a very vulnerable way as I put this video out there, that can feel groundless, right? And so, yeah, there's many ways that we can feel groundless, usually when we're in some kind of transition where we're not stable. And here's the interesting thing is most of us are in transition most of the time. And so we're actually feeling groundlessness like on most days of our lives, but sometimes it's intensified, right? So it's not just like this nice, easy transition, but it's like, holy crap, I don't know if this is going to work out. That's groundlessness. And we usually feel some shakiness about it and often fear because it doesn't feel safe. And then what's really interesting is from that fear and uncertainty and groundlessness, our minds go into overdrive. I need to solve for this so that I can have some certainty. How do I work this all out so that I have perfect control and orderliness, no messiness, no uncertainty? I know I'm going to be okay. And the thing is, there is actually no way to work that out. It's an unsolvable problem. Our minds go into overdrive trying to be like, okay, how do I make sure I'm going to be okay? I need to like do this and this and get in these things in order and do all these tasks and like talk to this person and like get this settled and pay for this and figure out how I'm going to pay for that. And, so we have all of these, our brains have all these ideas, solutions for how we can get some orderliness. But actually, even if it could do the thousand things it thinks of to get some control, we still won't feel that. And so we just go into overdrive and we spin around and we feel really scattered. We feel really like anxious and we feel overwhelmed and we just kind of like can't stop thinking. We get stuck in indecision. We get stuck in perfectionism. These are all things that result from the feeling of uncertainty and groundlessness. So the single insight that I want to share is there's one cause of our cluttered minds, all of these thoughts that are spinning around all day. And that cause is our discomfort with groundlessness, our un our feeling of a lack of safety, our fear that comes up when we don't have certainty and control. It's like someone has pulled the rug out from under your feet and you're like, oh, am I going to be okay? Right? Of course. And it's not just like a calm, like, am I going to be okay? But it's more like, crap, like, let me grab onto something because I'm feeling like I might fall and hurt myself, right? There's a Buddhist teacher, a really famous Buddhist teacher from the Tibetan um, tradition named Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. Chogyam Trungpa was not only a teacher from Tibet, Buddhist teacher, but he was a really like highly honored teacher, and he wrote some books. One really, maybe his most famous one is called Shambhala, the Sacred Way of the Warrior, or something like that. Great book, actually. But he wrote a number of books and he had a number of teachings, and they actually formed a whole separate kind of school based on his teachings called Shambhala. Not sure how they're doing these days. They kind of went through a little bit of a crisis a few years ago. But his teachings are actually very profound, his teachings on groundlessness. And he had a quote, which I'm just going to paraphrase because I can't remember the exact phrasing at this moment. But his quote was something like, the bad news is you're falling through the air with nothing to hold on to, right? So just kind of imagine that you're falling through the air and there's like nothing to hold on to. And you can imagine if that's the case, we're like trying to like grasp for something to hold on to. And then he said, the good news is there's no ground below. And what I really liked about that is you actually realize like, yeah, of course I'm in groundlessness right now, but there's nothing that's going to hurt me. I can keep falling. Even if I have nothing to hold on to, there's nothing I'm gonna splat on, right? There's actually no danger. Now imagine if that was the case. You had no ground under your feet, nothing, nothing to hold on to, and you're just kind of falling through the air. But there's nothing that you're gonna hit below you. Imagine if you could really trust in that. You could actually have certainty that you were safe, that it was okay. And you can breathe and you can relax and you can just be like, ah, this is actually kind of a nice feeling. I'm floating in the air. Obviously, the imagery might still not feel safe for people if they like imagine it, but that's the possibility is to like relax in the middle of groundlessness. And this is the single insight that can actually declutter your mind is that we have to get to the root of why are our minds spinning around trying to solve an unsolvable problem. And the answer is groundlessness, uncertainty, not knowing for sure, not having full control over your life. So I want to talk a little bit about why groundlessness is not a problem and then how to practice with it so you can declutter your mind. So why is groundlessness not a problem? Well, first of all, life is inherently uncertain. We are always in some kind of transition. There's always something going on where we don't know what the outcome is. And I actually think that that's not a problem. That's actually a really beautiful quality of life. For example, if you knew how everything was going to turn out, sure, you would have a sense of safety and control, but it would be freaking boring, right? It'd be boring if you knew the ending of every movie, the end of every novel. Like, we want to actually have a sense of discovery and like learning and not knowing sometimes. We want to actually be able to like kind of be on an adventure. Adventures are not safe and like known. Adventures are like, let me go out and see what I can discover in the world. See what kind of adventure unfolds without knowing what the answer to that is. In the midst of groundlessness and uncertainty is also creativity. We create without knowing what we're going to create. Um, it's how we create businesses and become entrepreneurs. It's how we become artists and writers, coders, and people who are creating organizations. We create in groundlessness and uncertainty without knowing the answer. Groundlessness is also where we find love for each other. We like don't know if the other person is going to love me back. Okay. Well, if everything was certain, that's not really vulnerable. And vulnerability is actually where love is born. So, groundlessness contains a lot of opportunity for learning, for creativity, for love, for connection, for discovery and curiosity. And so we can really embrace it. And then we can practice with it and learn to get comfortable in that, and then our minds can calm down a bit. And so I'm going to give you a practice right now that you can practice as I talk, but also on your own whenever you're noticing groundlessness. So the first thing is to stop and pause and notice that you are feeling groundlessness. You are feeling some uncertainty, maybe some fear. And I want you to look into your heart area and just kind of notice, like, what am I feeling somewhere here in my chest? Maybe some tightness. Maybe there's like a feeling of like nervousness, so like a shakiness, excitedness. Maybe there's like a kind of electric feeling. Maybe it's tenderness. So there's it could be a number of those and maybe other things as well. Something radiating, something vibrating. And so we're just noticing physical sensations in the chest of groundlessness. We're bringing a sense of curiosity to it. Huh, what could this be like? Let me see. Does it change? Does it have a color or a temperature? I know not literally, but like, does it feel like it does? Is it changing from moment to moment? Is there something beautiful about it, right? Okay, so we're bringing curiosity, maybe a sense of friendliness. Like we might have the sense of warm friendliness when a friend is in the room. We could do the same thing with the sense of groundlessness that's in our bodies. So we're practicing with groundlessness as sensation in the body, bodily sensation. Not the thoughts about it, but the sensations in the heart area, or stomach, or throat, head. And then can you breathe and relax with each breath so that you can just kind of sit and relax with the groundlessness? Relax your stomach muscles, your chest muscles, your shoulders, your jaw. Breathe and relax. What we're doing is we're allowing the groundlessness to be there and for us to be present with the groundlessness, the sense of friendliness, but also relaxing with the groundlessness. And then once you've done that, can you even find a sense of gratitude or love for the groundlessness? Like, wow, this groundlessness is teaching me something. This groundlessness is a gift. This groundlessness is lovely. This groundlessness means that I care. So find something like that. What's the beautiful meaning for you in groundlessness? So as you do that, I would encourage you to practice anytime you notice groundlessness. Have a little groundlessness reminder on your phone and check in and notice your groundlessness. And then practice and breathe and relax. And as you do this, tell your mind that has all of these thoughts, we got this. We're going to deal with all the things in our lives, all the uncertainty, one step at a time. We got this. And then start to practice that trust as if it was totally okay. And as you do that, the mind will start to calm down just a little bit. Breathe and practice this again if it's not. And eventually there will be like more spaciousness, more relaxedness, more calmness in your mind. And this is how we actually declutter it. Not like physical clutter, but actually through calming our mind, relaxing in the uncertainty and the groundlessness, and trusting ourselves, saying, we got this. Okay, my friends, I am Leo Babauta from Zen Habits. I hope that you liked this video. Please give it a like if it was helpful. Leave a comment if there's something that you found useful that you want to share or a question that you have. I would also love it if you subscribe. We're growing our community here on YouTube, and it really helps if you subscribe. Recommend this to others, share it with others, people who could use some Zen habits in their lives. Thanks, my friends. Talk to you later.